Hello, gorgeous pagan people. My name is Eric, and welcome to another Wednesday of Subsweek here on the Pagan Perspective. This week, our question is coming from Ems is Fab, who asks us, "What's your relationship to divination?" And I love this question because I love divination. So my relationship with divination, I sort of have to cast my mind pretty far back. I grew up in a loosely spiritualist household, and so my mum always had tarot cards and things around the house. So that was something that was never really foreign to me. My dad worked at a casino as well, so we always had a lot of cards around the house. So it's something that has always sort of been there for me. And when I think about fortune telling as well, there's this quote, I forget who says it, but there's this quote that my interest is in the future because I'm going to be spending all of my time there. And that's sort of how I can relate to it, as well as this idea that my interest, in divination is because I use it to help me plan forward planning. And I think that when you're looking at things like any form of divination, whether that's astrology or tarot or whatever, I think they all sort of help us to forecast the future and to plan for it. Just like we would check what the weather will be like that day, it's sometimes good to check what the planets are doing, what's the astral weather, what's going on in the cards. And it gives us that sort of forecast for what's going to happen. So for me, I think that the cards have always been really influential or really important for me. Because they do give me that sort of idea of what's going on in the world. And I was 15 when my mom gave me my first tarot card deck, and I started to learn to read with that for friends and family. By 17, I was working in a little shop doing professional readings, and I continued that sort of for the last 10 years, just on the side next to my muggle job. Last year, of course, though, I have started to train in Haitian voodoo, so I am not currently in the process of doing card reading, and even that itself has been really difficult. The Loa, my spirits, have asked me to take a step back from fortune telling, from conjure work for people, from things like that. And that I've found really, really hard because I feel so called to help people with the cards. And it's something that I've always leaned on in my own life as well. When I have questions about what's going on or I feel uncertain, it's something that gives me a huge sense of security, knowing that the answers are there if I want to seek them. So for me, that's been a huge part of my personal trials moving into this new path is not being able to just get the answers whenever I want them, and having to be patient and trust the Loa and surrender to them and to whatever it is that they have planned for me. So it's been interesting how my expectations of divination have shifted as I've definitely moved more into the spiritual model. But that's as well, part of why divination is so important, right? Is because it gives us a way to speak to the spirit world, to interact with our spirit team. And so I think that for any sort of spiritual person, anybody who works in a spirit model, divination of some sort is really important. Whether that's pendulums, whether that's scrying, whether that's astrology, or whatever it is, having some way that you can communicate with your spirits. I harp on about this all the time, is that it's so important. Because as well, your spirits are the one who are going to be enacting or acting out your spell, right? So you want to make sure that you're going to the right spirit on your team to do that job. And also whether or not the spell that you're preparing is even the correct spell for whatever it is you're doing. So when we're talking about that manifestation process or co-creation with the universe, it's always good to get that feedback from the universe before you start trying to make changes. So for me, divination is so necessary for that reason. I definitely think it's a skill that any sort of witch or pagan or whatever stripe of spiritual you are, I think divination is something you should have at your disposal in one form or another. For me, it's always been cards. I'm completely enamored by them, and they seem so magical to me. And even the history of playing cards is so fascinating. Just everything about them really draws me in and gets me excited about them. So my relationship with divination has always been one that's very strong and very close. And it's been very difficult, this trial that I'm experiencing of stepping away from the cards for a while after being so, I guess, reliant or secure because they were part of my life for such a long time. So yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it comes at a really interesting time, you know. But I think that at the end of the day, you know, divination is something that we should all be able to have at our disposal, or, you know, something that we should be able to do. Or at least we should have a diviner, a reader, a fortune teller that we trust and that we can regularly go to. For me, of course, that would be my mentors in the tradition that I'm training in. So they're the people that I'm now going to for regular readings. So it's interesting. It's interesting, the timing of this question for me. But yeah, divination is hugely important to me, and I think it should be in everybody's practice. Don't we all, though? We think that everything that we think is cool should be cool for everyone else. So maybe I'm wrong, but I definitely think that it's something that's imperative for a spiritual person, a spiritual worker, to be able to perform. So yeah, that's a bit about me and my relationship with the systems that I divine with or used to divine with. But yeah, I think that's all I want to say for now. So until I speak to you next time, I hope you're all well. Mwah! Bye.